For more than 20 years, CTV has captured the moments that matter in our community. From our studios in St. Clair, you're watching Focus with Paul Dingeman.
Well, welcome again to the Focus Show. Nice to see you. My name is Paul Dingeman. Glad to have you along. We've got a friend by the name of Terry Harrington. Welcome to the Focus set, sir. It's been a number of years since you've joined us. Terry is the illustrious truant officer for St. Clair County, but we still like him, even though he's the truant officer.
Illustrious, though. I like
illustrious.
that.
You like that?
I like that, yeah.
The truant officer works for RESA, which is the Regional Education Service Agency.
Correct.
Boy, I got it all, don't I?
You do. You're doing good.
And you've been there for numbers of years, and that's part of your responsibility there. But we hadn't talked, and I thought maybe you could bring us up to date as to how students are doing with all this COVID stuff going on. It looks like maybe the beginning of March, most of the schools will be getting back into regular classes. What's new? Well,
fortunately, right now, all the schools are back to some form of in-person learning. Okay. Some are doing a hybrid model where kids go every other day, and some of them are only going through the morning schedules. So it's kind of a mismatch of what the kids are doing, but we got everybody back in the classrooms, all K-12 grade levels finally. I know come March 1st, with the governor's new order, it looks like most schools will be back full-time face-to-face. Which will be good. That'll be the first time in a year that they've been back full-time face-to-face. So looking forward to March. So that'll be good, and I think that's going to be good for the kids too.
Previous to COVID, how large of a problem was truancy in St. Clair County?
Well, in St. Clair County, and not just St. Clair County, but across the state and across the country, we have a real problem with what we call chronic absences. We define a chronic absent student as a student who's missed more than 10% of the school year.
Okay.
180-day school year.
Yeah.
That's 18 days. That's basically a month of school.
Yeah.
Nationally, I want to say we have about 6 million kids across the country who are considered chronically absent. In St. Clair County, we're at about 3,500 to 4,000 students out of 2,200 or 22,000 students who are chronically absent.
That's a lot of students.
It's about 15, 16%. Yeah, that's a lot of kids who are missing a month of school.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is, whether, and usually we think of truant as students who are, just skipping school.
Yeah.
Okay. But, there's a lot of kids who just don't show up for whatever reason. They're not really skipping, they're just chronically absent. They're just not coming to school. And so that's what we're trying to concentrate on and trying to get those kids back into the classroom.
And so what do? Do you go knock on the door and say, "Where's Billy"?
No, not quite like that. Not like the old days or the old guy that drives the car driving the street, right?
Yeah, grab that kid.
Pull him by the ear and away they go to class. Now, what we try to do, I work with each of the local school districts in the county, all 7 districts, and so they have their procedures that they need to follow. Making phone calls, emailing, texting, you name it, with what they do to try to contact and work with the parents. And then they try to come up with different plans and different things to do depending on the need of the student. And if all of that fails, then they send me a referral. That's when I get involved. With the compulsory attendance law that we follow in Michigan, which says all students from the time you're 6 until you're 18 are required to be in an educational program. Well, that can be anything from parochial or your private school to online school to even homeschooling. And so we look at that to and see what they're doing and what they're not doing, and then what happens, and I'll bring them in and have a hearing. And we'll have a hearing with school, usually a school administrator or maybe a counselor, and then the parent will come in, the student will come in, and then we'll sit down and figure out, okay, why aren't you coming to school every day? What's going on? See if we can identify some of those barriers.
Recidivity? I can't say the word.
Yeah. I'm not even going to go there either. I get a lot of repeat offenders, or frequent flyers, as we call them sometimes. And so if we see that as an issue, especially from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 when they're referred to me, then we would take a look at maybe getting some court action going and filing truancy charge against a student, depending on their age. Usually middle school, high school, that's what we'll do. and then they'll be placed on probation and have a probation officer. Some worst case scenarios, they'll end up in the day treatment night watch program that the county has, or an intensive probation type of thing, depending on the situation. And for the younger kids, a lot of times we will file charges against the parent and get an education neglect charge against the parent. And yes, we have had put some parents into jail, unfortunately.
What do you find, what kind of age groups? Are you talking only high schoolers? Are you talking middle schoolers,
No,
even elementary school?
We're talking kindergarten right on up to
Really?
Yeah, 9th, 10th. Once they get to 11th, 12th grade, there's not much that I can do at that point. Yeah, with Michigan, with the 17-year-old adult law, kids who are 17 are considered an adult in the Michigan court system. That's changing. The governor has signed a law on that, and I think that changes come October, where now you have to be 18 to be considered an adult unless you do a heinous crime like a murder or something like that. Then they can charge you as a youthful offender in adult court. So that'll get some options, but it's going to take a little time to get that worked through, because with the 17-year-olds in adult court, now they're in adult jail. We don't want to do that. No, we don't want to do that. And sometimes I don't think that's the best way to remedy the situation either. Maybe what we need to do is get them into some kind of a remedial program or something like that to help them finish that high school education.
Speaking with COVID, I mean, I understand if he's in a classroom like last year, and he doesn't show up or she doesn't show up, you know that. But with COVID, how do they know that they're absent? Well,
each of the districts now with COVID, I mean, matter of fact, that's one of the good things I think the school districts were able to do and the teachers were able to do. When the governor came in last year and said on March 13th, we are closing schools, March 16th, education continued that Monday. And the teachers were able to begin doing stuff online.
After they were pulling their hair out.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, they made that turnover really, really quick. I was surprised at how well they were able to do that. Last year, from March until the end of the calendar school year, which is usually middle of June, we didn't do much with the truancy. We gave the kids some graces and worked with them. The only ones that I worked with at that point were the ones I had already been working with. This year, with the online component that schools, I think every district in our county offers some kind of a virtual program.
Yeah.
And they take attendance in the virtual program just like you would in a classroom.
Okay.
Maybe it's not every day. Matter of fact, the state says for the virtual programs, they have to have 2 face-to-face contacts with the virtual teacher in a week. And so, so they would count that. The other thing that I kind of look at is how much work have they done? How many activities have they done?
They completed their work.
Yeah, exactly. And I take a look at that. And if I see that the student is failing every class, or the percentage, like most of the classes are reported on a 0 to 100% grade level, 60% is the lowest level. That's your D minus. And so if I'm looking at what are those percentages under that, and then that tells me if they're doing any work or not. So,
what do you find is the average problem? Is it a parental problem, or is it just lack of interest? Or
I think personally, most of it has to do with family.
Yeah,
and
a lot of things do.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of kids don't have education as a priority in the home. Yeah, a lot of times mom and dad haven't finished their education, and so a lot of the priority. Sometimes it's easier just to let Johnny play with the video games instead of getting them online for that program, or to, why go through that fight every day? And I think a lot of times parents kind of give up on that.
And parents are busy. They're trying.
And the parents are busy. They're trying to work.
Working 2 jobs and
you got it. Yeah. Or there's 3 or 4 other siblings.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of issues. I just can't say that there's 1 or 2. There are several. There are some that just don't have the capability of really doing well in school on their own unless somebody is really leading them by the hand and taking them. So we try to get them some help and
do
some
you
support
see with the efforts of Riley Alley and her group at Great Start a change coming? I mean, are they the younger ones getting more basics on how to get a start in education?
I think overall that program is helping a great deal. with kids, but I still have a number of younger students who aren't. But again, that gets back to the parenting issue.
Yeah.
You know, with mom maybe sleeping in till 9 o'clock, so they missed the bus.
Right.
You know, and they don't have transportation to get them to school. So now there's a whole day right there that they've missed. You know, so I think there's a whole lot of different things. What I really think, though, we as a community, and I'm talking everyone in St. Clair County, everyone in the state of Michigan, we as a community need to make education a priority and do what we can to provide that support so those kids get to school every day. So they're not, you know, when we see mom taking, 3 or 4 kids at the store and they're school age, why, I don't say we need to accost mom and say, hey, mom, why aren't your kids in school?
Right. None of your business.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what you're going to get. But I mean, why is it that we're seeing kids in the store instead of in school with mom? So it's just a whole mindset, I think. But haven't come up with a way to figure out how to make that work yet. But
no,
I
then
think
you'll be that
really
zillionaire when you
really.
you
So
figure that out.
Yeah.
What else is happening with you and at RESA? You do some public relations work up there.
I still do some public relations things. One program I've been doing for 29 years
right,
now.
on PHM,
WPHM, and on EBW TV.
Right.
Is called Dateline Schools.
Right.
And I started that back in 1993, if you can believe that.
93, wow.
Yeah, and here we go. So I'm still doing it. And, I get to talk with Paul Miller quite a bit on WPHM, and he always reminds me, he says, you know what, Terry, I've never heard you repeat a program yet. And I haven't. So that's in the back of my mind. So during this whole COVID stuff, it's been kind of tough trying to come up with some fresh ideas and different things, but we've been able to make a go of it.
Yeah, that show, 93, that's wonderful that's
been great. It's been a great run,
that long. And it disseminates a lot of great information about individual teachers.
Yep, individual teachers, individual programs. One I'm looking for, trying to do in March, I just have to set up. We have an agri-science program out in K-Pac.
A what now?
Agri-science.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
The only district in the county that has one.
Yeah.
I did an interview with the teacher who was kind of revising the program a couple of years ago, and they started out with some chickens. Now they got rabbits, chickens. They just got a couple of pigs who are going to have piglets in a couple of weeks. So
Wonderful.
I'm hoping to get out there and so it's those kind of stories. It's fun. A teacher in Yale has been raising salmon to put in the Mill Creek there behind the football field out there at Yale to help build up the fishing population. So he's working with the DNR.
And everybody gets a salmon.
Yeah, not quite that good, but it's trying to raise and get the fishery back up. And he's working with the DNR. I did a story on that program not too long ago.
Well, they're great stories.
Yeah, coming up, I'm going to talk with Sandy Rutledge. I know he's a good friend of yours here out of St. Clair High School. What have our athletic directors had to do to get these kids back in the not only the fall sports program, they just started the winter one just a week ago. Right. And he has to test all the wrestlers for COVID before every meet. So I happened to run into him at RESA today picking up the test kits. So that's what he gets to do before every meet is test those kids. So what are they going through with those?
So Sandy started out as a teacher, became a basketball coach, then became an athletic director. Now he's a medical doctor.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, talk about a career, So, I mean, it's like me. Where did I think that truancy was going to be part of my career path, So you never know what you're going to do.
So if I'm an interested neighbor, if I'm an interested grandma and grandpa or aunt and uncle, and I see my nephew or niece is not going to school, what should I do?
Give me a call at RESA. Okay. And let us know. Better yet, probably call the local school and say, hey, why aren't they in school, or what do you know about these kids?
How can I help?
Yeah, how can I help? Yeah. That would be the best thing. I mean, we've got to get the kids in school. You and I both know that education is our path to success in our country. Right. I mean, our founding fathers knew that. Here's an interesting story. Back old New England journal that has old newspaper articles and stuff. Charlie Andrews, a good friend of ours, used to be Marysville superintendent. Yeah. He pulled out one and gave it to me, and it was an article from 1878.
Hey, Charlie was born then.
Yeah, well, he probably may have been about him. I don't know, but it was an article about how they wanted to charge $5 fine for kids who weren't going to school.
Oh my God! That was a lot of money.
Yeah, back in those days, that was big time money. But I mean, we're talking 1800s. So this isn't a problem that hasn't gotten much better over the years. That's for sure. So we got to keep working on it and do our best to keep our kids in school.
Final question. You are a very active member in Kiwanis up in Port Huron. What's happening with Kiwanis?
Well, like you as a Rotarian here in St. Clair County, a little slow right now.
Yeah.
We did start when the restaurant started providing in-service or in-house services again. We did start a meeting. We had our first meeting. Oh, gosh, when was that? Since last summer or last fall?
Yeah.
That we had. We finally got a chance to meet together. Of course, we were still doing some things. We had our biggest fundraiser over the years, selling those gourmet nuts that you've probably seen in local banks and things. So right now we're just trying to figure out how we can get the budget going.
All the service organizations have been hit pretty hard with, with this experience, and hopefully they can rebound and continue to do the great service that they do in each one of their communities. So.
Yep, and Kiwanis, like you at the Rotary, our whole mantra is to help kids, and so that's what we want to do.
Terry Harrington, the illustrious, infamous truant officer of RESA in St. Clair County. We thank him for joining us today here on Focus. That's about it for this edition of the Focus program. Thanks very much for tuning in. Till next time, I'm Paul Dingeman. See you soon. Thanks, buddy.
Well, thank you, sir. That was good.
Thanks for watching Focus with Paul Dingeman. Focus is produced at the CTV Community Television Studios in St. Clair. For over 20 years, CTV has captured the moments that matter to our community.